Durdle Magic. Thank you for tuning in to Durdle Magic. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell if you like the content you see here today, and leave a like and share the video with someone you might think is interested. Leaving those likes really helps us out, but another way to help us out is by using our TCG Player affiliate link below. If you're looking for singles, sealed product, or gaming accessories, please consider using our link to support the channel. We also have some playmats at inkgaming.com. Go ahead and hit the link in the description to check those out. Alright, let's grab some spells and Durdle with some magic. Hello and welcome back to Durdle Magic. Today we have the deck tech for Livio and Kodama. This deck focuses on enter the battlefield effects, reusing those effects, maybe getting an extra bonus out of them with Kodama, and generally starting to cause an engine where we just create insurmountable value, at least in a casual sense. Let's go ahead and take a look at the categories we're going to cover today. So in this deck tech, we're going to cover card draw. It gets its own section because it is very important to get the deck going, and especially for Kodama. Blink effects, enter the battlefield value, and extra value in landfall because we do run a sub-theme of landfall in the deck just to generate, of course, extra value. First up, we have the section card draw. This is very important to the deck, especially when using Kodama and utilizing its ability. So it is receiving its own section here just to emphasize that importance. So let's go over the cards included in the deck that help us draw some cards. First among many cards in the deck are Garrick's Pack Leader and Elemental Bond. Both allow us to draw cards if a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under our control. Then we have Garrick's Uprising, which is power 4 or greater. But if we already control one of those creatures with power 4 or greater and it comes into play, we get to draw a card, and it gives our creatures trample, which is a nice bonus. Guardian Project only cares if a creature comes into play and doesn't share a name with another creature we have, which it's in EDH, so of course we will not. And Soul of the Harvest doesn't care as long as it's not a token, so we can get a lot of card draw off all of these things, especially if we start blinking our creatures and or recurring them to the battlefield. Speaking of creatures entering the battlefield and drawing us some cards, we also employ Wall of Omens and Wall of Blossoms to do just that for us. They're fairly good at defense early in the game, plus they replace themselves, so they make good early drops into the game. Plus, we can just blink them and draw some more cards. Next up, we have the blink effects and the blink abilities of our creatures. A lot of them are also enter the battlefield effects, but we do have some spells we can use at instant speed to save our creatures, potentially remove them from harm. Not to mention our commander has a semi-like blink effect on it, so let's get into these. For instant flicker effects, we have Eerie Interlude, which allows us to exile any number of our creatures and return them to the battlefield at the beginning of the end step, good against board wipes. Then we have single targeted blinks. Otherworldly Journey and Long Road Home are essentially the same card. They blink a creature and then give it a 1/1 counter. Otherworldly Journey is arcane, if that matters to anything you put in the deck. Then we have Flicker of Fate, which exiles a target creature or enchantment and returns it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So we can also use it as a quasi save ourselves from a creature our opponent controls has kind of a removal. And now we move on to more permanent blink effects, if you will. Wispweaver Angel can come into play and blink one of our creatures in and out immediately. Flicker Wisp does the same thing, except it leaves it until the end of turn, then it comes back, so this is good for dodging maybe a board wipe if you're using it yourself. Feldar Guardian, a classic card at this point, blinks any permanent we have. That could be an enchantment, it could be a land if we need it to be. Restoration Angel has Flash when it comes into play. Not only does that flying and can block flyers, it can blink one of our other non-angel creatures, so pretty good. Classic combo with Feldar Guardian at this point. Gale Powder Mage, whenever it attacks, as long as we have a good attack target, it can blink something, and then we get another ETB out of it on the attack, which could help us in combat. Eldrazi Displacer, 2 colorless, exile another target creature, it returns tapped. So this one's also good on the offense as well. Plus, we can pay for it multiple times if we have multiple colorless sources, rather, and that can just give us more ETBs and more value that way. Then, of course, we have our commander, Livio Oathsworn Sentinel himself. Now, while he doesn't specifically do a blink like ability, he does help us exile our creatures with the GS counters. Then with one activation, we can bring them all back and get all those ETBs once again. This is very good on its own, but it's even better with Value and Kodama. So let's go and start the value train. Enter the battlefield. Value is nothing without, well, value. So everything from removal to recursion can be ours. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have in the deck. First up for removal, we have Fiend Hunter and Angel of Sanctions. Both come into play and exile a creature. However, Fiend Hunter is a little bit more abusable because there's that separation in the sentences. You could potentially permanently exile somebody's something. Don't do that to your friends. Angel of Sanctions does have extra utility by being able to bring itself back with Embalm, technically as a token. But I do like the card a lot because it does give you that extra life out of it. Hornet Queen is another different kind of ETB where we can basically have an army in a can. Not only can we peck our opponents to death with evasive flyers, they also have Death Touch, which means they're very good on defense, and we can just keep blinking it to get more of those. Knight of Autumn and Acidic Slime bring us some of that classic enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact or enchantment, but they also offer us extra utility. Knight of Autumn can give us some life gain, and it can become bigger with the 1/1 counters, which is nicer in the early game if you have no targets. Acidic Slime, however, can also destroy lands, which is very important against Orbolg Tomb of Yawgmoth and Gaia's Cradle, which you see a lot of on Magic Online, and there's other problematic lands you might want to get rid of. Of course, blowing up people's lands probably isn't going to make us friends with anybody, and they're probably going to kill our creatures, if not try to exile them. But for creatures that die, we have some enter the battlefield recursion. Sun Titan can bring us anything back that is CMC 3 and is a permanent. Karmic Guide will bring us any creature back, and it has protection from black, which could be very relevant. Angel of Serenity is a little bit more flexible in that it brings dead stuff back under it to exile and can remove things from the battlefield to exile, and when it leaves the battlefield we get that stuff back to our hand, which is very good with Kodama, and we can get some more ETBs that way. Green Warden of Marasa and Eternal Witness both bring something back from our graveyard to our hand, any card, and Green Warden has the extra ability of exiling itself to bring back something again. Green's very good at this because it can recur anything to the hand, whereas white is a little bit more restricted, but for both colors, it kind of balances the deck out and we can get back whatever we need. Of course, it wouldn't be enter the battlefield effects if we didn't add a little bit of landfall, which also works very well with Kodama, so let's review a few of those things because it ties into a lot of the other stuff we're doing, plus we can just play stuff from our hand for free, so it's an excellent value in the deck. For our landfall effects, we largely produce tokens. Rampaging Ballast gives us a 4/4 beast creature token, pretty large and in itself has trample. Avenge of Zendikar, another army in the can card. Blink it a bunch of times, get a bunch of plants, and every land we put into play gives a 1/1 counter to all the plants we control. Feldar Guardian is a little bit better in the regards that it gives a 1/1 counter to each creature we control and not just plants, and it also makes 2/2 cat beasts. However, if we add Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, into the equation, all of our creatures become forest land, and if we start blinking them, we trigger landfall abilities galore. And what better way to use that ability than through Admonition Angel to cleave our way into our enemies' faces. Of course, if we end up defeating our enemy, we don't have to worry about them getting anything back if Admonition Angel gets blinked or otherwise destroyed. However, our opponents likely aren't going down without a fight, so we also have Emeria Shepherd. As long as a plane comes into play, we get a permanent from our graveyard to the battlefield, and if a forest or some other land happens to come into play, we still get it to our hand, we can still recast it, get more enter the battlefield effects, get Admonition Angel back, and start it all over again if we have to. With landfall and ETBs, we have to have Springbloom Druid in the deck. It's basically a Haro with a body on it, so of course then we can blink it and get more lands out of our deck. Now the Reliquary is also in the deck. It can sacrifice a forest or a plains to get any land that we need, and that can be very prudent. And of course, with everything going in and out of the battlefield, lands coming into play, Kodama of the East Tree will allow us to play something from our hand for free, or specifically put it into play, as long as it costs less CMC. So lands can only get lands, tokens can only get lands, but assuming we drop a Hornet Queen and blink it, we get to play 2 more things for free. That can get really out of hand. If you can get the card draw out along with Kodama and, say, a blink effect through Feldar Guardian, perhaps, you can play a lot of stuff out of your deck just by drawing it and dropping it onto the battlefield. That's it for Livio and Kodama deck tech. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out the deck list in its entirety, there's a link in the description below. And if you want to see it in action, you can go check out the series of videos I did prior to the deck tech. Alright, that's it for the Commander Legends coverage. We're going to move on to Keldheim in the next week or so. Unfortunately, it's going to be coming out on Thursday for Magic Online in time for pre-release, and that really doesn't give me enough time to make a deck, test it, edit the deck footage and the play footage, so unfortunately, going to have to skip it on that one, but I will have a video for you on Friday. Until that video, until the first Commander from Keldheim, I'll see you around. Stay safe.